My guest today is Chris Lehto. He is a former Air Force fighter pilot. He currently has a YouTube channel titled Lehto Files, where he has been investigating UFO cases for a few years now. And one case in particular that I'd like to cover with Chris is the Turkey UFO video. And Chris also has a connection to Turkey because he served there in the United States Air Force. He'll explain more of that in this episode. But we're going to be looking at this infamous Turkey UFO video. It was a series of sightings over the course of 3 years, from 2007 to 2009. Now, some people have claimed that this was just a cruise ship. And as you can tell from this phenomena right here, it's still entirely plausible. But as we dive deeper into this case, things may not be what they seem.
If this is the video, which is called a Kumburgaz video, which is a close-up of a craft, in fact so close that you can see the occupants, it is 100% real, and I was there as that was filmed.
All right, vetters. Holy cow, look who I have in the house. The collaboration you have all been waiting for. Mr. Chris Lehto joining us on the podcast, vetters. You're welcome. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and thanks to, like you mentioned right before, hello, Ali. Thanks to Ali for getting us together. And yeah, I haven't done many podcasts lately. I've had a lot of issues. Parents getting old and, having issues. So been helping with that, but happy to be on yours and happy to finally connect.
Absolutely, man. Yes. And shout out to Ali for setting this up. She goes by Hello Ali online. She is a moderator for both our channels and helped connect us. And this was awesome. So shout out to Ali. Thank you so much, Chris. Yes. So excited for you to be here, man. And I know you don't do many interviews, so I'm really ecstatic you're here, and I can't wait to jump in, on a lot of this stuff. I want to go over this famous Turkey UFO video, which you have a lot of experience with, amongst some other, different current events and stuff that's happening within the UFO community. But, I think like a lot of interviews, right, that pop up, you always want to see, well, who is this guy? Where, what's he about? Why is he even into this topic, especially the UFO topic? You always want to know, how did you get interested in this? So, let's just start there. How you got interested in this topic?
Yeah, definitely. I fell into it essentially. I was a F-16 pilot for 18 years and then retired and moved with my family. We actually moved to the beach in Portugal, in Europe, and we love it here actually, although it has issues like anywhere else living. And really, after I retired from the Air Force, needed something to do, and I fell into YouTubing essentially to try and impress my kids and to learn. I love learning actually. And so if I can combine learning with impressing my kids and earning some sort of income, although, YouTube is difficult, as I'm sure it's difficult to earn any sort of living, but it's worked out. So I started making videos and just really got no views generally. I think it's very hard to get traction, but obviously you've done it and you know what it takes. And I made a video about UFOs, so analyzing the videos from the Gimbal, and really because I saw Mick West, a friend pointed me out to Mick West on some channels saying that the pilots were totally full of BS, that they were totally wrong. And I just got fired up, and no one watched my videos anyway. So I said what I thought, I was cussing and everything. And then that went viral. Chris Mellon, actually, he mentioned it. And he hasn't mentioned me since. I don't know. It's like I pissed him off after that video or something. Which I guess I do. I just tend to piss people off, which I guess I just can't help, You're going to say what you want to say. It's not like, again, it's not like we're making billions of dollars or something, it's doing this really as a passion project. So then I got very interested in it. And you notice as well, I'm sure you have the vets, as you call them, but you have people that get very interested and motivated and dedicated as well. And that also adds a lot of pressure as well, because you want to, then it becomes this audience that you want to impress, or at least live up to their expectations. And then you often, at least I don't live up to those expectations. So now I'm just dealing with that and trying to figure out, I just want to know what the truth, and as painful as it may be when we find it, or I think we will, because AI, certainly in the next 2 years, I think we're going to find out a lot more than we're probably willing to know. And so when I started making those videos, I just always wanted to find out the truth. That's what I say. I love learning. And so that's really how I fell into it. My background in fighter piloting and material science. And so now I've just been looking at it from a physics standpoint, which again pisses off a lot of people because I'm not a physicist, but, although I have a degree in material science, which is chemistry and physics actually. But I wish I learned a lot more physics when I was there, just basics of like quantum mechanics and such. So that's how we ended up in the UFO world. And now it's been 3 years, and it seems like we've made a lot of progress, but then it also feels like we haven't made a lot of progress at the same time. There's way more people looking, so that's interesting now. Like, there's way more YouTube channels about UFOs, yours as well, all doing great work, actually. I'm like, I see all these views going to other channels, I'm like, oh man, they're getting all these views. I'm losing, I'm missing out. But I'm at the same time, I'm just happy that you guys are out there as well, covering the topic so well.
Sure.
And so you can keep up to date on, we have people that cover current events, like Hello Ali, she covers it for UAP Society. There's so many YouTubers out there, interested parties now looking at the problem. I think that with the tools coming online with AI now, that we will know. So that's what motivates me to continue in this difficult topic, is I want to know.
Sure. Who doesn't, right? Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. So that's interesting. So like, since you started to now, do you feel you're any closer to that truth?
I mean, I have, at least in my own mind, I have a model. And I have no idea if it's correct, obviously, it's speculation, but I do, in my own mind, I have a model. Yes. And I'm trying to figure out how to present it, correctly. Usually I just post it immediately. As soon as I think of something, I just post it, and then people hate it or something. They don't like it.
Sure.
But I'm trying to think how to present it. I considered writing a book. I've written a few books before, but I already have one draft manuscript I haven't finished. And writing is so difficult. I think making videos is probably the better way to go. So I presented one of a part of the theory at this Hessdalen conference, field trip weekend. I've worked closely with Project Hessdalen, since we're in the same general time zone in Europe. For people that don't know, it's in Norway. Hessdalen Valley is a famous hotspot, and the Hessdalen lights have been recorded scientifically now for over 40 years by this team, Project Hessdalen, led by Erling Strand, a Norwegian professor, actually. So, I went there the field trip weekend. You have just a bunch of dedicated, UAP enthusiasts, so people just really interested in the topic, trying to find scientific evidence for it. And so I have worked with Project Hessdalen as well, and their scientific efforts. But like you mentioned, their Turkey UFO, new information has come out of that, thanks to UAP Studies podcast. Again, another great podcast, like doing all this work. I'm just literally just doing what I can to kind of like stay sane and, reasonably productive, as productive as possible.
Sure. Of course.
But they were able to track down, I went to Turkey trying to find witness leads for the Turkey UFO. It was a series of videos filmed in 2007 and 2008 and 2009. So over 3 years, very similar videos, and they're long videos. You have like 42-minute long, 17-minute long videos, and they're quite compelling, the Turkey UFO videos. I think as UFO videos, they seem the most compelling from any I've seen, because everyone's like, where's the high def videos? And so for me, Turkey UFO seem like the most high def, like they zoom in, but they don't do any weird effects. There is some debunking claims. I've spent many hundreds of hours probably countering metabunk. So their arguments on basically, could it be just a street lamp, etc. Because there is a moon in the video. I think that gives the strongest evidence that it's a real UFO. I guess it could be an elaborate hoax, but I think that would be difficult. And so this way, the moon in the videos gives the strongest, most compelling evidence for me, because you can track the moon's phase to a specific date. And you can, so if you know the location of where it was taken, and then you track it to that date based off the moon's phase and everything, then you can get pretty accurate in determining that that's the correct time and date. And if it's that many degrees above the horizon, then it can't be a ship, you know?
Sure.
So I think that's the most compelling argument. If anyone is looking into the case, look at the moon, you know, in relation to the Turkey UFO. And I think that's the most compelling evidence.
Sure. Yeah. And I do want to jump into this Turkey UFO video for sure. But, you know, before we get, you know, dive deeper into this video, and I've got a clip that we kind of selected before we started here so we can kind of go over, because I find it fascinating too. I've always found those videos fascinating. But a little bit more about your background here. Like, I know you said you're in Portugal, you know, just as some synchronicity here. I used to live in Galicia. So I don't know if you've been up there, northern part of Spain, up into
Yeah, definitely. We
Galicia.
went for vacation for a week where it rains most of the time.
Yeah, well, depending on what part of the year, for sure. If it's in the fall, or yeah, absolutely. I lived in Grove. I don't know if you know where that is. Little island just off the side, maybe near Vigo. You know Vigo?
No, I don't know any islands up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a city there, Vigo, in Galicia. Yeah, my wife's from Spain. I lived in Spain for years. Love Portugal. I've only
Cool.
been to the northern part. I used to go see these like horse shows on cliffs out there and eat pulpo, you know, octopus, right?
Yeah.
Those were the days. So yeah, man, so cool that you're there. So if I ever go, I'm gonna, you know,
Definitely.
reach out to you, and we'll get together there in Portugal, which would be sick, man. Yeah, my wife grew up just on the border of Portugal in Cáceres, Extremadura, which is a part of Spain, you know, just east there near.
It's super hot there, I think, if I remember.
It can be, for sure. It's where the best jamon serrano comes from, because they eat bellotas, the acorns, and it's just the best jamon serrano, supposedly. Yeah. Acorn fed, you know, wild fed. They just run around. Anyway, whatever. Very cool. I just think that's so cool that you moved out there and are enjoying life out there. I think that's super cool. And you said you were a fighter pilot for 17 years. Is that right? 17?
Yeah. 18 years, I guess.
18, dude. That is just, I would be very specific too. No, not 18, because I'd want that correct, because you flew fighter pilots, dude. I mean, how sick is that? Like, did you ever have any sightings when you were a fighter pilot, or anything you saw that was odd?
No, nothing at all.
Really?
That's what I was saying. I never thought of it till that time, really.
That's crazy, right? Like, but you never heard stories or anything your whole time when you were in?
Nothing. Zero.
That's interesting. Have you ever reached back to any friends you had and like, hey man, I know maybe you didn't talk about it while we were in service, but did you ever see anything? Have you ever done anything like that?
I was at a reunion a few years back, and a couple guys said that as commercial pilots, they saw some lights towards the ground that they couldn't explain, moving around in crazy ways.
That's kind of cool, right? I mean, these are guys you trust, you served with, right? That's super.
And there's another fighter pilot YouTuber. He doesn't talk about UFOs at all. I think I'm the only one, since Ryan Graves, since he stopped making videos, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Max Afterburner, he does videos about DCS, regular mainstream fighter pilot stuff. But he talks about he saw a reverse explosion, he called it. He came over a hill on a low level, and there was this explosion that inverted and went the other direction.
What the hell?
So he related that. But no, I didn't hear anything when I was in, and I was always motivated to try and find out what matter is made of. You know, that's why I was a material scientist. I've always been interested, and I just took the mainstream line, basically the argument that you can't travel faster than light, and so basically nothing could get here. So even if signals could transfer, then you can't. There's no way physically that anything could get here. That's why maybe Newman probes, they argue, but SETI, all the scientists can't believe that the aliens would be here, you know, already.
Sure.
So yeah, I believe that, but that doesn't, and I made a briefing at Hestal, and I mentioned that it's about physics, etc., part of the theory. But the first argument is, like, if you really believe that as your underlying assumption, then, you know, you also can't believe that aliens would be here, you know, your
Sure.
fundamental assumptions really determine your belief outcome.
The
If you don't
foundation that you
believe it's
set, right?
possible,
The sandbox you lay out for yourself, right? Yeah, exactly.
exactly. If something's not possible in your mind, really not possible, then
You won't go
the
further than that.
yeah, if the
Thinking goes,
solution is in that set of answers, you're never going to find it. You're never going to
Sure.
find it. That's
Sure.
what I
Well,
realized. Yeah.
it's a good point. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. You know, that's definitely very interesting. What do some of your pilot friends think about like what you're doing now, like looking into this and stuff? I mean, that, you know, you said a couple of them had some experiences as commercial pilots, right? After their
Yeah.
career, are they supportive of like kind of what you're doing and think it's kind of interesting?
Yeah. I think I'm just kind of a lone introvert too. I'm just not very good at relationships in general. So I don't keep in touch really. As you notice, trying to
Love
get
the
into
honesty. Yeah.
um,
No,
I
man, you
think,
seem
yeah, I'm just
great.
not good at it. The few guys I talked to, yeah, I think one guy, he likes all the interesting stories, but I don't think he believes it. He was super stoked because his son was really pumped. Right when Skinwalkers at the Pentagon came out,
Yeah.
like the hype was so high, you know, and his son just loved it, hearing about skinwalkers, you know, like they could turn into
Sure.
wolves, you know, like he was like, really? So for him, it was amazing, the son. And so for that, I was like a superhero. He's the only one, I think. Another
That's
buddy is
cool.
quite supportive. He really thinks it's a very interesting. He wasn't a fighter pilot though. And then the other fighter pilot buddy said, you know, once in a while I'll send him something and be like, hey, could this be true? You know, because he worked a lot with nukes, like nuclear weapons.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the F-16 does have a strike mission ridiculously. It's so stupid that they fly in this B-61 nuke and drop it, you know, and then you fly away and hopefully don't get messed up, which surely you're going to. You're
That's
dropping a nuke from it's a gravity bomb. It's
wow.
awesome.
Wow. So typically they would be on more bombers or something, right? Rather as opposed to an F-16. But I guess they've found a way, just in case you need to do it. They have a capability.
Well, it's really it's what holds NATO together as well, the capability. Because NATO,
okay.
you know, when you're talking military power, you know, what are you really talking? Nukes. You know, it's like the real military power is nukes.
Yeah.
And that's really held through NATO. And NATO, US is the only one that has bombers, really. That anybody else have bombers? No.
Okay. So it's so that way any country can quote
so they have
unquote
fighters.
have that
Yeah.
capability. Got it.
So
That makes sense.
So then, you know, Italy can say, hey, we have nukes too. We have
Sure.
a nuclear capability. And
Yeah.
so then they strap it on their fighters.
And hope it goes okay. Yeah.
So
No,
that's what basically kind of holds the teeth of NATO together.
Sure. No, that's cool. Wow. No, that's fascinating. I think it is extremely relevant, your background, you know, looking into this. And I think that's probably why, you know, your first video blew up and so many people have respected a lot of the work that you've done, is because you're able to bring this angle that just other people are not. I mean, I'm an ex-chef. What expertise am I bringing? Well, that looks like a cucumber. You know what I mean? I don't like, I don't have any expertise I can lend to this. So it's great to have people like yourself who actually have some, you know, expertise to lean into this, right? Especially with, you know, Gimbal and all of these videos where it's a fighter pilot who's involved with it, right? The Nimitz, the, you know, David Fravor and these guys, you can relate to them in so many ways and understand what they're saying and how they're thinking. And that's got to be a huge, you know, benefit. And it definitely is for the community, man. You're very well respected in that sense. So, no, that's cool. I think that's super cool.
That's really what changed my mind, though, is how I could relate, because it's a very small community. The David Fravor, you know, I don't know David Fravor. I've never met him, but I've met like his clone replica several other times. You know, there's just a certain type of person that gets to that level. It's like the quarterback athlete, you know.
It's the chef. It's the head chef. Like I know exactly what you mean.
Some
like,
stereotype of person that, you know, the type of person it takes to get there, however it is, you know.
Sure.
And for him, so I feel like I knew him. So when he gave that, and then he gave the 3-hour interview, really explaining in detail from the perspective of an instructor pilot, you know, that he was, it really just made total sense to me. So it felt like I was there, and that's really what changed my mind, is that his description of the engagement. I'm surprised
Absolutely.
more fighter pilots haven't come out. I don't.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Why do you think that
It's a
is?
difficult topic.
Stigma.
Well, they have talked about it on other podcasts as well. No one's, I guess, interested to go all the way and try and, dedicate their channel to it.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, but why did you choose UFOs to dedicate your channel to? Just, or
I
it
mean,
wasn't
the audience
initially?
kind of chose me as well. Because like you see, you don't want to make videos that people don't like or won't watch, or they think it sucks.
Sure.
You
Of
want to make
course.
the best video you can.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
try and make videos that I'm interested in. So I am interested in trying to find. It's very interesting once you understand, you remove the assumption that it's not possible. That's really what happened with me. So Fravor, it like cracked the glass. When I heard Fravor's with his in-depth discussions, it
Yeah.
just like put a little crack in my,
Reality
and,
bubble, right?
yeah, because once
Oh.
once something doesn't make sense, or it does, once you realize one of your fundamental assumptions could be wrong or is possibly wrong, then it cracks your worldview. It really can
Sure.
crack it. And like I said at the beginning, if you start from a wrong assumption, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how good your evidence is. You're never going to get to the right answer. So that's why if it's not possible, there's no way aliens could ever get here, then there's no reason to look. And
Sure.
so evidence that's to the contrary now is obviously not real evidence, because it's not possible.
Yeah. No,
So I think that's where we're
again,
still in, and academia, I think, still has that mentality.
definitely. And to be fair, and I don't, really want to dive too deep into this, but I can understand some of the arguments of it. It's kind of like its own podcast, but I can understand certain elements of science being like, I've got to work on this thing because, this is applicable in real life that I'm trying to do right now. Yes, that sounds cool. I would love to, but I can't really focus on that right now. But that shouldn't be all of science, right? So we should be we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, science is studying a bazillion things at once. So why shouldn't we add this in if it is such a fundamental reality change that could be on the horizon, or in some people's mind it's already there? What are your thoughts? Like, I'll just ask straight up, do you believe we're not alone and that we've been visited here on Earth by a non-human intelligence? Do you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
What was the
Yeah.
turning point for that belief? You said the glass got cracked. When did it shatter?
I guess over the past 3 years, it's been a slow, just cranking process.
So not just like
Where
one moment, but
it just creaks out. The overwhelming evidence just creaks out all of the doubt. Yeah, more like a cheese grater.
Sure. I get it. I like that analogy.
Like a cheese grater. Yeah, I mean, I my own view is that we're going to find out. Like I said, we're going to find out in the next 2 years. We're going to get AGI, because like now I spend all my free time, like a new chat GPT model came out. If you saw Strawberry, it's 01 preview.
No.
And so, yeah, anyway, immediately I plug in everything I can and see if it can come up with the final answer. And it can't quite. It's like almost there.
That's interesting.
So I think,
what do you mean you're plugging in? I guess I don't understand. Like, what exactly
well,
are
I
you
think
what information?
so for me,
are
you said, when did the glass break? Is when I understood that it's very easy to limit your possible solution set through your assumptions. And my main assumption was nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So nothing can get here in time. So all these instances when people say that they see a craft and it appears immediately and then it zooms away at like faster than the speed of light, and you hear about all these contactee stories, and basically they're traveling faster speed of light, except obviously to get to all these other systems. Once I realized that that doesn't have to be correct. That's just an assumption. If you remove that assumption, then it opens up a whole world of possibilities. And for me, it was like, okay, I was able to remove that assumption. So then I was able to remove other assumptions yeah, and then come to what I consider as a basic overall working model, which is the universe is all connected, and consciousness is the base, and then somehow this is like a holographic simulation, like a fractal of the whatever the whole.
The whole, yeah.
And
Okay,
so
yeah.
yeah, if everything's based on frequencies and waves, essentially, if we're all just frequencies and waves, there's no real, particles. It's more like a simulation. Then all of a sudden you can go back and look at the math, and all of a sudden it lines up, and that's what I found, or I thought I found. And I think there's just so many coincidences in physics that show that really the whole universe is connected. And that would explain psychic phenomena. It would also even explain crazy ideas like astrology. Because gravity has no limit. There's no distance limit to gravity. So
Interesting.
yeah. So how is that possible in a space-time? The idea of space-time is where you have a blanket, and then the ball's sitting on the blanket. And so it bends the space-time. And so light curves. But how does that work for on the other side of the galaxy? If we're all in the same blanket, like, is that blanket, how are we still attracted to that? So you can have two ways to look at. You can have for general relativity, you can have a space-time where space-time is curved and light flies straight, and that's basically what we have now. But you can use the same construct and say that light bends and space-time is straight. So you can just reverse it. And so I think that'll come out in the near future, where the universe is fully connected. Sure. And so I think what we're going to find is we're surrounded by worlds like ours at different stages of development.
Sure.
And I think it'll be related to, and my argument is, I'll just finish it here. The same elements that we thought back in like the 1500s, when we didn't understand that there was microscopic life.
Yeah.
We attributed all these unknown, like ghosts. Why do people get sick? It's because of this. What's an infection? Yeah. We attributed all these pseudoscientific theories to account for microscopic life. So what I think is what actually we're seeing is effects of macroscopic life, meaning you have larger life systems such as the Earth or nation states, or probably the galaxy is probably its own living organism. And it's going to have like white blood cells. It's going to have control mechanisms. So that's like what Jacques Vallée says, the phenomena is a control mechanism.
Oh,
and so that would be if it was a larger organism. Like, we're not the largest organism. If you just assume that we're not the top, which we're probably not, there's no way. If you assume we're not the top, because we're not the bottom, or then we're somewhere in the middle. So that means there is larger life. So I think the UAPs is going to be that effect. So those things that we right now we're attributing to like magic or paranormal effects, et cetera, is going to actually, I think, it's going to turn out to be from macroscopic life. So from the larger dimensions that will, because like they don't want Earth to turn into a cancer, right? They don't want humanity on Earth to randomly turn into a cancer and all of a sudden spread to all these star systems around. Imagine if we turn into some evil, whatever, completely capitalistic, terrible society, and then spread to other parts of the galaxy, right? In the future, then they would have a control system to stop that. They would be like,
interesting.
Nope, no, you're not doing that. And I could see that's where you would even have like planets being totally wiped,
annihilated. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. So you went way beyond just have aliens landed on Earth. Like, is Roswell real? You were like, let me figure out the whole universe and how it works. Right. Like, essentially you went just, let's figure this whole thing out. But I get it, because that's what this topic, this topic is so interesting, because you think, oh, are we alone? Right. Okay. And then you think, oh, have they visited? Okay. And let's look at this specific case. And then, oh, well, how would UFOs run? And oh, how would, this advanced life act? And then it just leads you down these other questions, consciousness, this, that. So I can totally see how eventually you would get to where you're at, right? To figure all of it out. Like, it makes sense, because I've had those conversations myself. And I think that's fascinating to kind of, go down that path. I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, it must have been 4 or 5 months ago, I think you had released something like the theory of everything or something along those lines. I may be misquoting that, but is that essentially what you're talking about here? That theory, that model you were working on?
Yeah, basically, I would say the first the first draft of it, which is very rough.
Of course.
Also,
It's
basically,
just,
and
yeah.
a psychotic episode. So basically, yeah, I would say the problem is if it's true, right? If it's actually true, then it's a very mind-blowing, psychotic episode-inducing event, you know? So I'm not
Sure.
saying that it's to me, it's a model that makes sense. Now, everyone has their own conception of sanity, right? So maybe I'm insane. But
What
I
does that
think,
mean, though?
but you saw a recent article, or it was a recent paper that just came out where they're actually finding inconsistencies with the redshift from rotating galaxies. So for anyone that understands basic astronomy, the galaxies that are rotating in the same direction as our galaxy, right, are actually redshifting. So that means we see more of those galaxies actually.
Oh, okay.
They're redshifting a different amount than what's described by our standard model. And so my whole argument for speed of light, et cetera, comes back to basically back when they chose Einstein. When Einstein released his theory, they went two ways. They said we can go expanding space model, and that's the way they went. Or there is another way they could have gone, which is light itself bends, right? The static universe, light bends, or expanding universe, light goes straight in a bending universe, right? The problem is the way they went doesn't work. It doesn't get you to the answer. That's what I was saying. If that's your fundamental assumption, you're never going to get to the answer. So that's why they can't find an answer to things that they call dark matter, right? Dark matter there's no such thing as dark matter. They should call it the galaxy rotation anomaly. That's what they should call it. That's what it is. They make something up that would solve their problem, but it doesn't really exist. You know, like it doesn't really solve your problem if it doesn't exist, but it solves your math problem. And you know, that's what they're calling dark gravity. But they would have to go back and abandon like so many Nobel Prizes, you know, over 50 years.
See.
And I even honestly now I'm even thinking again, if it's true, and I think we'll find out in the next 2 years, is I think the phenomenon even keeps information out of the general psyche until the organism is ready. I could even see that, or we weren't ready to
for the information.
We weren't ready to know that actually we're connected to every other part of the universe, and we could travel there probably immediately. You know, I think maybe the phenomena even keeps that information from us for its own, for the greater universe's own benefit. That's what I'm saying. If it's a larger larger system, if we don't assume that we're the top of the pyramid,
sure,
and we're part of a larger organic system, then I think the information was even kept from us. Like once we started nuking everything, they were like, you know, we are not telling them how to get to our front door. Like,
yeah, that's interesting. So you think it also is conscious and making decisions and has a plan, and right? Or do you think it's just sort of instinctual? You know, not really any. Like it's always meant to be that way, right? Like red blood cells attack X, Y,
well,
Z.
Well, humans act based on instincts
as well, in a lot of ways. That's true.
Yeah. So, well, what I really think, if it's all true, and David Grush, what he's saying is true, and it certainly sounds like it is. Then what's really been kept from us is what's the larger ecosystem like. You know, if they know anything that we don't know, probably is that what is actually the larger ecosystem around us actually like, you know, the other planets. You know, I think we may find life is extremely prevalent all around us. It's just like bodies in your cells in your body, they're going to be at about the same general development, you know, depending where they are or what their form and function is.
Sure.
So I think we could be surrounded by other Earth-like systems or
life. Yeah. No, I totally agree. No, I found that interesting. I remember when he came out with this theory, and it was supposed to just bring everything together. And I appreciated the ambition, to be honest with you. You know, I did. I mean, I'm being frank.
Thanks.
I appreciated the ambition and trying to go there. And I was like, what else are we doing with our lives? You know, like, can't this dude try to figure out what the hell's happening with us. I know some people were, to some extent, you know, I don't know the whole story, and you know, we can cut this if you want, but if you wanted to, you could address kind of that situation. I don't know if you have publicly, or, you know, what people thought, because I know some people were like, oh, Chris has lost it. He is off his rockers, man. And you know, and other people were like, no, he's onto something. He's doing this, X, Y. It was very divisive, you know, it was right down the middle. And I'm curious, like, one, how you actually felt about it, and how, you know, what's happened since. You know, I don't know. Again, we can cut this if you want. I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
Well, the repercussions were certainly very painful.
Sure.
My channel views went way down. I was locked up in a Portuguese psych ward. I was pumped with all these like terrible psychotic drugs.
Oh, God.
That was amazingly painful.
I bet.
But, you know, it did teach me, again, just about pain. I was thinking the other day about general pain, and like now I feel fine. So
Sure.
like pain, I'm like,
eh.
like it doesn't, I don't know. Like,
what does David Goggins say about pain, right? Like,
how do you define that? And that, like, that's not anywhere in any of our physics understandings. You know, if you want to learn about what life really is, you can't even learn about physics, because it's not even in there. You know, you might as well study some other subject than the actual nature of reality, because physics tells you nothing about pain or what it is to experience. You know, but now I'm in no pain. But 3 years ago, I remember I was curled in a ball crying outside the doctor's office. I couldn't get into the doctor's office because of just pain in my back, lower back. They recommended surgery right away. And I had like 4 more than that. 4 or 5 people say, don't get surgery, like, immediately. And so I didn't. And I met a great chiropractor and work on it every month, etc. But now I have no pain, you know, so how do you explain that? How does consciousness fit into that? Where is that in our physical models, understanding anything about the one thing we can all agree on is we are experiencing some sort of life, if you will. You know, how do you explain that? And it's not in any of our physics models. So I think it needs to be, metaphysics certainly has to come somewhere into it. But the theory, the repercussions were extremely painful, but it was just an amazing set of synchronicities that I just could not believe. If I'm sure it feels, when I go and look, like spiritual awakenings, it seems very similar to when you look at spiritual awakenings, etc.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I just could see whatever things that you wouldn't normally be able to see, not because I'm essentially special, but just because there's a intricate geometry of the universe, and somehow I just was in the spot where you're supposed to, this is what's coming. This information is coming. For whatever reason, you're here, you're going to get it.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, fine. And basically, for whatever, people can say what they want, but I heard it, you know, I meditate. I've been meditating the last 2 or 3 years. And then I remember hearing specifically a voice, and you said, you talk to yourself, but how do you know it's not, how do you know it's you? But this felt like it wasn't me. And it said, fear nothing, fear nothing. I was like, okay, you know, and that's really the message I got. And so, like you said, it's very divisive, because I said what I really thought and believed at the time, and I'm passionate about it. So it came off as, in many ways, offensive. And it was meant to be offensive, really, because, again, if true, it's just so ridiculous that you have such an ingrained stigma in the scientific community. And I think it's obvious that by this time, and again, that's why I said, again, what I did is because I think it's going to be true. It's going to be proven. Maybe not that exact answer, but there will be an answer somewhat similar to it, if not exact, in the next few years, just because their numbers are so wrong, and they've been so wrong since the 30s, since Einstein left, since he died. It's like they've just been extremely wrong, and their models, they've lost sight of what models are supposed to do. You're supposed to have observations and then make a predictive model, and the point of the model is to predict things from the future, right? You're supposed to say, okay, we should go and look over here, and this is what we should see. And they're just, and then if it's wrong, right? So you make a hypothesis. These are the observations. This is what we're going to see over here. true or false. If it comes back false, you need to go back and look at your initial model, your initial assumptions. But they don't. They just freaking just change it, and they just move the goalposts. And it's so obvious. You can just see it. Like their numbers didn't work out, so they invented inflation, which moves faster than the speed of light. And then that doesn't work. The galaxies aren't spinning the right speed, so they just add something else, dark matter. So they've just continually added things now going on 7 or 8 decades. It's very similar to the UFO phenomena. It's like the zeitgeist is not ready to move on. They're not ready, but I feel like something has changed and has broken. And that's really what I got, is that basically I think we are in some sort of an awakening. If you look technologically, there's going to be a huge change on Earth in the next 10 years technologically. And I think few people really, a lot of people are, they can tell, they're anxious, they're nervous. Something's going to happen, something's going to change, but it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be so awesome. And I'm a huge technologist, I'm, break everything, burn this place down. Let's build a better, newer place. But again, I have 3 kids. I want them to live in a great future. And I think they can easily, if we don't screw it up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, look, we've made it this far. I think we'll be okay. A few comments. The pain thing is interesting. I've always looked at pain as sort of this alarm system, right, for yourself. Because if you didn't have pain, what if you got cut? You just keep walking. You know what I mean? You don't know. But does it go further than that, right? Like, can we utilize it for something else, or can it mean something else? And I do find that interesting. Exploring that, and the no fear thing is interesting because I've always thought that, like, initially, yes, you don't want to be afraid, right, as you're growing up and that sort of thing, and don't be fearful and don't be afraid. But then, as you get older, you hear other stories and you hear other ideas. And I've always heard, like, what is it? Courage or bravery is described as not ignoring fear, but facing it, being able to face the fear, but still move forward. Right. So, like, fear to me, in some ways, just like pain, is almost necessary, right, to keep you balanced in some way. So that's an interesting message to get, right? No fear.
Maybe I should have listened.
Yeah.
Or not listened.
Yeah.
Either way.
No, but it's an interesting idea. And you're right. That thought, like that voice in your head, right? Like, again, I'm with you on that. Where did my thoughts come from? Consciousness. I've wrote music for a long time. I know you play guitar. First of all, I hope you got a new one. I don't know if you did, but you deserve a new electric guitar. But, when you write music, right, stuff just comes. You just write, you know what I mean? Lyrics, chords, just notes. You just kind of flow. It's like this flow. It's hard to describe to people who don't play music. And I've always wondered and had many conversations with musicians and songwriters, like, where is this coming from? Where'd you get that song idea? I wrote it in 5 minutes. I don't know. I just came out of me. I've had songs like that. It just literally flows out in 2 seconds. I don't really know, where it's coming from. And I do find all of that fascinating, that unknown. So I don't think there's anything wrong with sort of diving in and finding out what's going on. I think more people were just concerned. And look, if I'm being honest, myself as well, I don't know you. And I thought, I hope he's okay. Right. I hope that this is okay. Cause it's definitely fine to look into this stuff, but I think not at the expense of, losing your sanity. So look, it makes me happy to hear you're doing well and you're doing great, man. And you have my support. You have this channel support. I know you have literally thousands of people who support you and what you're doing, man. So, right on to you, dude. I mean, that.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, of course, man. And, let's dive into some UFO stuff, man, because the work you've done is unique. And I don't think you get enough credit for it. Maybe it is just geographically where you're located, but, and I hope to move back to Europe one day soon myself. My wife wants to leave America and wants to be back in Spain. Very bad. And I love Spain, so I'm ready to go back to Europe myself. But nice. You've done a lot of work out there. Oh yeah, I love Europe. You've done a lot of work out there. You're working in Norway. I've seen you go to like other crash sites too out there. But specifically, this Turkey UFO video that we were speaking about at the beginning. I mean, you physically went to this spot where near the area of where they filmed, you know, this video. Dude, that's sick. I just think that's boots on the ground. Like, nobody does that kind of stuff. I don't. I just watch videos and go, oh, cool, you know, but I'm not. The closest thing I did was go out to Area 51 and I made a stupid video. Like, it's stupid. It's
Did
not
anyone
even.
watch it? Because nobody watches my videos. On
Nobody
my one when
watched
I
that
went there,
video.
no one
Nobody.
cared.
Nobody
I
cared.
make a
Dude.
video in my basement, you know, and
Yeah.
spend a lot of time editing it, making it look cool. Then they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch this." But if I go there and I
Totally.
spend all this time and pain interviewing people that don't want to be interviewed
Nobody
on the
cares.
beach, they don't care.
They don't care. Why don't they? That's so
Well,
weird. You're right, man.
I guess I wish
Why-
there was
why
more
is that?
data. No, nature of humanity.
Humanity,
I
what
wouldn't
we
watch it
click
either, I
on,
guess.
right? What we, I don't know. We want the flashy lights and the nice sounds and you know, something about, you never know why a piece of content or a video does well sometimes and why other ones don't. But I'm with you. I spent, you know, so much time editing my Area 51 video. Now, granted, that's for my other channel that I have before Vetted, but still, I you know, took a trip, you know, coordinated, like all this stuff, edited, took me
it's a lot of
weeks,
work.
put it all together, asset, you know how it goes. And then nobody cared. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what the? I made a video about some stupid other alien thing and everyone was
Goes
watching.
viral.
I'm like, you know, this doesn't make any sense. I just thought, well, I'm not
Typical,
going out
yeah.
anymore. Yeah, I don't want to do boots on the ground anymore because what's the point? I mean, people have been encouraging me here with Vetted. Oh, you should go out to this and you should go. Why? I wanted to initially, but it's like, why? Nobody's going to watch it. Nobody cares. They say they do, but then when you present it, they don't. You know, they don't really care, and I do find that fascinating. I guess it's just for us.
I think it's also you get into you know, people come to your channel to expect a certain content, and then when you're out there walking around, they're like, "Well, I wasn't ready to engage in this sort of thing."
That's a fair point.
You do get people that do really respect it. There's hardcore people or people really dedicated that do really resonate with that, although they're much fewer. And that's what's nice about like Patreon and things like that. They can support. So that's why I try and put more information on Patreon, day-to-day stuff that those people care about more, or, you know, maybe people more dedicated will go to there to look at it. But it's tough to make it worthwhile. Like it's tough to make it financially viable. And so if it's not even, if you can't even make money on it, it takes a lot of time and work, like you said. So it's also painful when it doesn't make money as well.
Oh God, absolutely. It costs so much more than just sitting in front of your computer with a camera and a microphone and just talking, just giving opinions and showing some pictures or a video clip. And, you know, that cost is not even close to a huge trip to go out. And again, editing, that's where a lot of that, you know, the post-production too of everything you go and capture, because you just want to film and get all this footage that 99% of it won't even be used. Yeah, I do find it fascinating. But like I said before, you know, you do have a lot of respect from a lot of people in the community of you going out and doing some of this work. So look, let's jump into this Turkey UFO video here. I'm going to bring this video up on the stage that we talked about earlier. And I have to admit, it is one of the most fascinating UFO videos I've ever seen. And you're saying that it was filmed. This Turkey UFO incident is filmed over 3 years now. Filmed over three summers or 3 nights, like at the same time. Like, can you explain the timeline a little bit?
Yeah, I think he's basically a night watchman, was Yalman Yaljan. And so he's working out at these hotels. So in the summer, Turks go to the beach, right? Every month for August, basically the whole month or some portion of the month, they'll go to these family locations. So you have all these holiday homes, essentially apartments along the beach.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those little holiday sites. He was the night watchman, so he's there. I found out later, basically he did a recent interview where he gave more information that when he was a kid, he was visited by, he said, beings from Zeta Reticuli, and they said he's supposed to capture videos. Then when he's 20, he's basically told to go move back to the coast there and await instructions. And then he moves back home, and a guy says he should go buy this camera, and he starts filming. at night. Basically, he should film, and that's when he started seeing the objects. Made the newspapers. So it was over a series of 3 summers. Basically, is when he did most of the filming. I think is when he had the job and was on the ocean. And so that's when he filmed.
Got it.
I think because when it's not summer season, I bet they still needed guards, but maybe they didn't need as many, or I don't know. Maybe he did film. I haven't checked the dates of all the footage. There's a lot of footage. So on the channel, you go to Turkey UFO incident, and then it has the 3 years, 07, 08, 09.
Yeah.
And there's a famous
I'll put links in the
incident.
description for all that for sure.
Yeah, there's also a famous interview with Lear.
Roger
Dr.
Lear.
Lear. Yep. So he was basically there for a UFO conference in 2008. And he says when they're leaving the UFO conference, they're like, oh, there it is. There's the UFOs and Yalman's there. And he films allegedly right next to Lear. And it looks like this. They just see objects at a distance. And then he zooms in. And that's when Lear said he sees the entities on the ship.
In the cockpit, right?
Yeah, that's the ones in the cockpit.
Or
I think
whatever.
that's in 2008.
Okay, the next video after this. Okay, right on.
On the internet, there is a video from 2008. Now, this video, some people say it's hoaxed. Some people say it's the real deal. I don't know whether you know or not, whether it's the real deal or not, but it certainly is one of the best videos we've ever seen close up of what purports to be a UFO. Do you know anything about that one? It's supposed to be from Istanbul, Turkey.
If this is the video, which is called a Kumburgaz video, which is a close-up of a craft, in fact, so close that you can see the occupants, it is 100% real, and I was there as that was filmed.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know.
Up on my website. Unfortunately, the one that's the depiction that's up there is not as clear as the other footage I have, and we're going to switch it soon. The one I have is the clearest footage of it. Also, I think the audience would like to know that footage was taken by the Cirrus UFO organization to a university in Istanbul, and their optical physicists went over that with a fine-tooth comb, and it was on all the major television broadcasts in Turkey that that was the real McCoy. There was no faking. There was no trickery of the camera. There was not an aberration. It was not a frisbee. It talked about the reflected light off of the craft, which was coming from the full moon, and that the areas where you see the occupants are some kind of a backlighting.
Okay, now you said you were there when this was filmed. How close did this thing get to you and whoever else was there observing it?
Not as close as you might see from the footage. We were on the beach and filming out over the water. And what we saw is something bright that was under the moon. So let's say the moon was the size of a dime. This would have been the size of a flashlight. And we were more interested at that point in the moon than the little bright light that was under it. But the camera that we were using had a 400 millimeter lens on it and an electronic doubler. So as we pushed on the craft, which means focused or on the craft, it got more clear and more clear and more clear. And when we centered on it, those are the shots that became famous.
Were you astounded when you saw the video?
Oh yeah, you can hear us the exclamations being made. It's up on YouTube. It's been up for some time, but you can hear the exclamations made both in Turkish and in English for those of us that were standing there, because we were looking at it on the monitor for the camera.
How many people were there?
Oh, at that point we must have had between 6 and 8 people.
I would love to see all the footage that there is no UFO in. That makes sense. I'd like to see like how much he captured. Like, what was the percentage of how much he filmed and didn't catch anything versus what he did catch. I don't know. I just find it a little interesting. The video itself is interesting, but the story is a little suspicious to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm just being honest behind it. But I do admit that the video itself is fascinating. I mean, you can see an outline, and you can see something there for sure. And you do see when they zoom in on the other ones too, like you do see little something like does look like people,
Yeah, the main debunking argument is that it's a cruise ship like over the horizon.
Chris is right. One of the leading debunk arguments that this Turkey UFO is just a regular old cruise ship is this phenomena right here. It's called Fata Morgana. And basically, it's when refraction bends the light downwards towards the colder region, because as you can see in this graphic, warmer air and the cold water, that separation creates this optical illusion. And people think that's all this is, a cruise ship. And here's an example in real time what that looks like. Now, I'm not saying I'm entirely sold on this, but it is something to keep in mind. You decide. Cruise ship. What they need to do is just film a cruise ship, what they think it is, like film that and compare the two and see if it matches, which I don't know if anyone's done that. Oh, they have. It doesn't match. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you said earlier about the moon and all that.
Where's the rest of the ship? Like, I don't see how it matches.
I see what you're saying. I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about this. I don't know anything about boats. I haven't spent any time on water except for what most people have, lakes and.
There are optical illusions, Fata Morgana, basically where it can reflect off the water. It looks like the boat is floating, or you get like an optical mirage, essentially.
Sure.
Where it can be floating. That's one argument. Like there's lights. You'll see here, there's lights like this, where it's actually.
What are those lights?
If you fast forward, it may have it later because that's 5:15. That's wrong. He didn't know PM and AM. He didn't know what it meant in English. So that's 5:15 AM.
Oh.
So if you go forward, it'll be daylight.
Oh, daylight. Let me see. Oh, I see. Is that daylight?
There you go.
Yeah.
You'll see ones where he's at the beach. Again, there's a lot of footage in here. Where he's at the beach and there's lights over the horizon. There's like 5 lights in the shape of that same crescent shaped that you saw. And people have argued that that's like over the horizon. That could be a Fata Morgana of the distant coast. It's over the Strait of Bosphorus. But again, the best evidence, I think, is the moon phase.
The moon, right? The moon phase.
Yep. Because he zooms out, he zooms in on the moon, he zooms out, and then he zooms right on the object, like, and it looks just like that.
He's saying so. So people are saying, yeah, it does. It looks like a so people are saying this is the top of a cruise ship, essentially.
That's the primary debunking argument I've heard. Like when you say, "What about Turkey UFO?" The initial like fast thinking reaction is, "Oh, that's a cruise ship," and then they move on. So their assumption already is it's a cruise ship, so they don't even look.
They don't go past anything.
They don't go past it. Yeah, but right there, that's where you see the supposed entities in the middle there.
Oh yeah, right there. Boom, boom.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I stabilized it and tried to look at it, and I couldn't see any movement in there. So I don't know.
I'll put some better overlaid, images and video and post here of this while we're looking. Of the image or of the entities. So like, let's say with all the work that you've looked into this and thought about, what's your where do you sit at it? You think this is a non-human craft and those are non-human beings? What do you think?
I mean, again, it sounds crazy, but again, if it's true, then this would be our best evidence. For people that say there's aliens and they're in flying saucers, and where are the high def videos? These are high def videos from a while ago.
Sure. Yeah.
So, But yeah,
I mean,
I've stabilized it. I didn't see any movement. And you also have from Dr. Lear saying that he was there and confirmed it, while the guy was filming it. So that would remove
that's interesting.
hoaxes.
Yeah.
That
See,
removes a
that
lot
is
of things.
interesting. You're right. I mean, you're 100% right. That you got to admit that is
So
that's
it makes
interesting.
it even more elaborate, I guess. If it is a hoax, then, which makes me think it could be like a physical phenomena, like maybe there is a weird Fata Morgana optical illusion, like this is on the opposite side of the coast. But that doesn't make sense if Lear is right there and
He's saying, I
it
see
has
it
to be
too.
close to the horizon, and yeah, it also doesn't
I
make
wonder,
sense
like, if they're looking out from without zooming in, if they're just looking out from, like, how much zoom does this camera have? First of all, I mean, this
it's a
is
lot, 16 times. So it was a
six.
more than a super zoom. And that's the other debunking argument, is that this is like some interior lens artifact, which I don't understand because he's moving around, but maybe there's a reflection. And when he moves the camera slightly, it reflects off like something in the ground in
Yeah,
front of
but
the camera or somewhere. I don't know, a weird
it would
lens.
move. That thing would like distort a little bit, because I've seen those things, and I know what you're talking about. When you're filming, you get these little like refractions and stuff in the lens, but typically those will adjust and move as you're moving the camera and the way the light bounces, because it's all about angles and stuff. So I don't see any of that happening here at all. It stays the same shape. The lights stay in the same spot, right? Like all the highlights. Well, see,
Yeah.
that's interesting. It just like went dark.
He could have zoomed out with the light exposure and all that.
That's true too.
No, I think as far as UFO high definition videos, I don't know how you get better, because the guy was there. There's a lot of it, and then you have Dr. Lear and alleged, other onlookers saying, "Yeah, I saw he zoomed in on this thing up in the sky." So it seems like the best evidence, which, again, all these things, it's like you can get into UFOs and you're like happy to look, oh, there's a light in the sky, but then it's like, okay, well, here's the whole story. Now do you believe it? And like, no way,
Totally.
But I don't know. If true, then yeah, you would have, these are beings and they came down to hang out in Istanbul.
Didn't the guy who filmed this come out recently, right, with an interview? Did you mention that earlier?
Yeah, he did. UAP Studies podcast found him, tracked him down. Because I went there and I asked around, and people like did not want to talk to me.
Oh, really?
I said, "Can you give me his information?" Nothing. Yeah, and I basically didn't want to talk.
Do you have a video on your channel of you going to Turkey and looking into this?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Okay.
They can go check. It's from last year in September. I went. September.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely put a link in the description, and maybe even show a short clip here to get.
Yeah, you can see the people running at the end. I mean, because my daughter was filming. I didn't know she was filming. She was with me, helping me. She was holding the camera. My 10-year-old daughter.
Got it.
Or she was 11, and she ended up holding the camera when I didn't know she was, and they like ran. It wasn't hilarious. It was.
I know what you mean. Sure. See that. Yeah, this
but someone did talk. They did say, yeah, he was there. They remember him. I talked to 2 witnesses who remember him filming specifically and knew him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
is it a small town or like what? Where
It's a small vacation village right outside of Istanbul.
Got it.
And I interviewed a bunch of people on the beach, and 3 other people. I got 3 or 4 other stories. Yeah.
And is there daytime footage of this? Or it's only nighttime?
There is, and all you see is those lights. You see the curved lights there. You see there's like 3 lights.
Yeah. That's all you see.
5 lights that look just like that, but 5 lights set up, and they're red. And there's this dog barking at it. It's a famous video. The dog's just barking, and he's filming these lights on the horizon, and the dog's just going nuts.
No,
it could be in 2008 if you can't see it.
Sure. No, yeah, and I'll post it over in post. I'm just curious about these other weird little orbs he's filming, right? Like.
Evet, suyun üzerinde yine. Kötü şey yapma.
Burası yavaş yavaş yaklaştı. Abi ne münakalasın içinde? Su var, belli suyun üzerinde işte.
That's when he zooms out. So they're basically moving around, and then he zooms in on that, and that's what you see here when he zooms in. He's got this crazy zoom lens.
Oh, so
It's a
that
big
light
camera, you know?
bouncing around
VHS.
is when he zooms in, that's what he sees is the
Yeah,
crescent
yeah.
shaped. Oh, wow. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the light, and you'll see he zooms in on that orb, and that you see as an orb now, and it turns into that thing, that
Right
crescent thing.
there. Hmm.
Although, yeah, there's not always the direct zoom in. Like there, you
Well,
see there was a cut.
that's a cut. That was a cut.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
always, but there is on the moon
the other
one
one,
that I think
on the
really
moon
is
one.
the best evidence.
And that's the
I'll
know
go to
what?
2008,
Let's
but you can see
yeah,
it
let's
there.
just real quick. I'll just bring it up here
Yeah,
real
go
quick.
to-
The 2008 one, 2008. Didn't it say
Yeah.
2008?
That's what he used, 20 times optic. There you go.
Oh, see, there's a big light here.
So that's the moon, yeah.
Okay, that's the moon.
He'll zoom it in focus. Yeah, he's trying to like, and then he pans down from the moon, and then you see the thing.
Is there ever a shot, I guess we'll see, that the moon and that thing are in the same shot?
That was it right there. Yeah.
But not in the same frame, I mean. I guess is what I meant. Sorry. So you measured the
It's out
distance,
of the frame. It's not in the same. It's not
right?
close enough, I guess.
Yeah,
does
it's
zoom
almost
out.
there. Yeah. So you took that where the moon was right here and kind of used. See, that's interesting the way that just happened. That was an interesting little cut there.
Yeah, go back before the moon.
Yeah, let me go full here. Before the moon. Okay, right here.
Yeah.
Okay, zooming out. Goes up to the moon. Right, he's trying to find the moon.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right there, it cut.
And there's a cut. That's a cut.
Yeah, that was a cut.
But from the other one, he goes from the object to the moon.
I mean, it is interesting. Look, I mean, right there, you
You
see.
showed again.
Look at that. I mean, you can see. I can't get a good. But you do see like little figures there, right? Like.
That's what Lear said is the entities or whatever. He said you could.
But that
see
looks
them
like they're just
back
out
to us.
in the open. Does that make sense? Like there's no, they're not
Yeah, it's
covered
like a
by anything. Like,
convertible.
yeah, like yeah, like they're Thelma and Louising this. I don't know what's going on here, which is interesting. Like I see something, but I don't know if I would go so far as to say beings.
Yeah.
But I see a shape of, you know, some body or something. But God, it's so tough.
When I stabilize, I don't see it move. So to me, it didn't.
Oh,
look
that's
like it.
interesting.
So here you go. There, so that's the lights over the horizon right there. That I was talking about.
Got it. Okay, and that's the horizon.
So
Got
that's
it.
yeah.
Okay.
You have the horizon you could have on the distant shore because you're looking across the Bosphorus. But when I was there, it's 28 miles.
Oh wow.
So it's quite far, but you can see.
So he's got an
can't see
attachment
land
on
in the
the
distance.
right,
It's
because
much
that's what
lower,
that
though.
you can see the attachment on the camera, whatever
Yeah,
he's got
it
on
was a
there to give him
special
that.
20-time optical.
Got it. To give
So
him
that's
long.
where they say
Yeah.
it could be one of the interior lens elements. Is that curved, weird
Sure.
looking light thing?
Sure. Well, if you've ever shot with a camera and there's a trick you can do where you actually take off the lens, but you physically hold it up against, right? But you've unscrewed it and you can kind of tilt it left, right, up, down, and get these weird things going on, right? Like it's like a trick for, you know, music videos and whatever, if you're trying to add some different effects, sort of a cheaper way to do it. No, I mean, it's interesting for sure. See, these lights are interesting. I mean, I gotta admit, it's definitely
That's where the
interesting.
dog's barking here. This is the one I think.
Oh, that was it.
This one here coming.
Let's see if I hear.
Suyun üstünde lan bu.
You can see 3 lights there for sure.
Suyun
Yeah.
üstünde işte.
And they're weird orange lights.
Yeah.
Yemin ediyorum ağır ağır gidiyor.
And he's speaking in Turkish. I learned Turkish actually. I was a Turkish exchange pilot. That's my whole relation to Turkey.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we love Turkey. We also went
Gir abi gir.
on vacation there.
Of-
Although I
love
wouldn't
Turkey
go to
too.
this place necessarily. There's much nicer places.
I worked with a lot of guys from Turkey in restaurants that I worked that we had an exchange program with, like a culinary school in Turkey, in Istanbul. And so I worked with a lot of Turkish guys who are still really good friends of mine. I'm going to ask them about this video, maybe even ask for some translation. Kanka, they just call me Kanka. That's it. What's up, Kanka? I think that means dude, I guess. I don't know any Turkish.
Abi, it should be Abi.
Abi, they call me Kanka. I don't know. I don't speak
Abi's
Turkish.
uncle. They call everybody Uncle Abi.
Abi, no,
Yeah,
we
like
never
bro.
got that.
It's like
We
bro.
always got Kanka. Kanka. What's up, Kanka? Okay, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they were effing with us. You know what I mean? Maybe they were messing with us. No, I find it fascinating. I gotta admit, it's a fascinating.
Yeah, the final
video.
thing that's really kind of nuts with the story is that he says that there's a giant ship buried under Mount Nemrut, which is mind blowing to me. I went to Mount Nemrut with my family of this picture where my son was in my wife's belly there. But it's a crazy place. It's this giant mountain built out of these little tiny rocks, like this big. You know, it's like a giant pyramid made out of little tiny rocks. It's Mount Nemrut. It has the crazy sphinx heads, like the falcon heads.
Oh, okay. And in Turkey.
Yeah, it's in eastern Turkey. So that's what he said. That's what Yalman said, is that the recent update, when he kind of said all these things about he got the sightings, and he said that there's a spaceship, giant spacecraft buried under Mount Nemrut.
How does he know that?
That's what they tell him.
Oh, he's the messages
like
he's gotten since he was a
that.
kid, right? Yeah, gotten.
But
Okay,
this is
so
more recent. He said go to Mount. They told him to go to Mount Nemrut, but he's like, it's too far. I don't have enough money to get there. And they're like, okay.
They're like, okay. The aliens are like, you don't got any
else.
money? All right. I mean, we were gonna send you some, but I don't know what to say. That's what.
Yeah, they should.
Wait a second.
They should send him some cash.
Did they not pay for this? Can they not expense this?
He believes that until this month there will be two huge crafts we'll be visiting. He's starting to contact these beings, 12 years old.
Kısa şöyle anlatayım. Ben bu UFO olayları...
Would he mind describing the beings at all? Or is it the same beings every time? Or are they different at all?
From the Draco system, they were always protecting, these gray beings. They were protecting him against them from Orion beings and the Draco system beings, what we call reptilians. Yeah. Evet efendim.
Onur Bey, ondan sonra işte...
Any kind of military or security services, have they approached him for the footage or for his testimony at all?
So he went to the streets. He was as a homeless. He was after 10 years he was living his life as a homeless. Evet efendim. And he suddenly came across with a person which he didn't know, and he told him suddenly take and buy a camera.
The following is a conversation with Yalcin Yaman. Yalcin is responsible for the most famous UFO footage ever recorded, also known as the Kumburgaz UFO or the Turkey UFO from 2007 to 2009. He was an incredibly difficult person to track down, but we did. The UAP file is exclusive. For the next 1 hour and 15 minutes, we run through everything. His childhood, the craft, the lenses he's used, his experiences of contact, very specific predictions of when the next giant craft will be sighted and where. And of course we talk through the footage, how, where, why, what and how frequently. We even threw in a question from skeptic Mick West. Yalcin answered every question in great detail and nothing was off the cards. A truly fascinating man who we will talk with again. And a special thanks also to Onar Baskin for his assistance in translating. So, the following is a conversation with Yalchin and Yaman.
So I just looked. I just asked like ChatGPT if any excavations have gone on. Supposedly there has been excavations of Mount Nemrut, but basically nothing's come out of it because TÜBİTAK did investigate his claims. TÜBİTAK, they're the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, and so they examined the footage when it came out.
Okay.
And they said they didn't find any evidence of forgery or manipulation. But Turkey, like, still to this day, they haven't issued any sort of official statement or support or anything.
Interesting.
So, yeah, the actual Mount Nemrut is a well-studied archaeological site known for its ancient statues and the tomb sanctuary of King Antiochus I of Commagene, dating back to the 1st century BC. But I was driving in Turkey like 12 years ago, and randomly I was looking on my cell phone, like they weren't even that new cell phones, what's next, TripAdvisor, and it said Göbekli Tepe. I was like, I've never heard of that, and then it said 12,000 years old. It was like 12,000 years old. So we just stopped. We were just driving by and we pulled over to Göbekli Tepe. This is way back before it was famous or whatever.
Yeah, that's sick.
And it's not excavated. Like, there was one hole dug, and supposedly it's a giant, huge, massive complex structure, et cetera, everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I doubt Mount Nemrut has been seriously investigated or excavated. They're still finding stuff in the pyramids.
I mean, 100%. Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of cultural this, that, and the other, and just money and research. And you got archaeologists from all different countries with different protocols and this, that, and people fight. And I followed the Göbekli. Am I saying it right? Göbekli Tepe?
Göbekli Tepe, yeah. It means like pot belly.
Pot belly. Okay.
If you drink a lot of beer, you have a Göbek, they say.
Oh, okay.
Turkish. Göbekli is a pot belly.
Got it. Okay. Very. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, it translates as pot belly hill.
Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting for sure. It'd be interesting for them to go do some sort of, I don't know what the technology is where they can look underground and like lasers or something. I don't even know what they use, sound waves or something where they can get an idea of what could be under the structure. Honestly, what it reminded me of is, do you remember when Ross Coulthart mentioned on one podcast, like there's a UFO so big they built a building around it? That's what I
thought of as well. Yeah,
it reminded me of that. Because I could see ancient times them doing that, right? Like that makes more sense back in the day, like long time ago. Like,
like a few 100 miles away is Mount Ararat, and I think that's where Noah's Ark is supposed to have landed.
Yeah, which is also fascinating, right?
So yeah, conspiracy theory. You could say this was Noah's Ark, the Anunnaki or whatever. It's buried under Mount Nemrut.
The Anunnaki Noah's Ark.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. Wow, that's fascinating, man, for sure. God, I want to just go on these adventures, dude. You know what I mean?
Either way, I'd like to see Mount Nemrut excavated. It would be amazing. I mean, it's just a crazy place. There's nothing around, nothing, and it's just this giant mountain. You drive in your car up, you just keep going up, and then and then I realized at the top that it's just a bunch of small little stones. Couldn't believe it. And then you have those crazy statues. So if anything, Mount Nemrut's a crazy place. And he just mentioned that. I thought it was quite surprising.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's
that he came out, what, 10, I guess almost 20 years later, right? Comes out with, these guys find him from this podcast, which, how did they find him? I have zero clue. That's interesting. And then he tells all these other stories which weren't known, right? I guess that he had been talked to by these beings. I guess that was what was new, right?
It was new to me. I don't know. It sounded like he had voiced it before. Yeah, he does.
Got it.
But I just hadn't seen any communication. I don't know where he was posting this information.
Sure. Is there a big Turkey like UFO scene, like in Turkey? Like
it's interesting too, because when I went, I figured I would just go there and find the people. But I mean, I was there when they had. I wasn't there when they had the coup, but I was in the squadron that basically started the coup. So there was a serious military attempted coup in, what was it, 2016? It failed, but it started in the squadron I was in. They bombed the runway that I flew out of, the squadron.
Oh,
I know
wow.
several people that are still in jail. Actually, the pilots, they're deemed terrorists.
Wait, American pilots?
No, these are all Turkish. I did a Turkish exchange.
Got
like a
it.
student exchange, but you're as pilots.
Sure.
So that's why I
Okay.
learned Turkish, and then I was in a Turkish squadron in Ankara for 3 years almost.
Dude, that's sick. When did
was
you
awesome.
get out of the military?
2020.
When did you retire? 2020. Oh shit,
Yeah.
dude. That's like,
August.
oh hell. Okay. So you went in around 2003.
2000 I went
2000
in, yep. To 2020.
2000. Got it. So you served 20 years fighter pilot for, I mean, the majority of that,
Yeah,
right?
the first 2 years is training. So that's why I say
Sure.
18 years, because I did it.
Wow. So right before 9/11, you
Yeah, I was
joined.
in pilot training during 9/11.
Wow. Holy cow. Pilot training during 9/11. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's fascinating. That's honestly, that's quite fascinating. Wow. So, wow. What, there's so many cases like, have you, because this gimbal video and all this stuff, all these videos just keep coming back up. People keep talking about, like, I see Mick West and forget the guy's name, Merrick. That's all I remember, his first name, Merrick. I see him going
running
at
camp?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy. I see them going back and forth on Twitter. It feels like every day about the gimbal video, like, and screenshots of it, and just, literally going over the smallest little detail about it. Like, are you done with that sort of thing, or have you sort of made your peace? Are you still working on it, or how does that even? What do you think?
On new videos. So I have hopefully the Ukrainian guys I met. There's an amazing Ukrainian UAP community, actually, led by this guy Artem. I met him in Heston. And you said boots on the ground. I think the best reason to go do boots on the ground stuff is you had to actually go there and see for yourself, etc. And
Sure.
but then to make the relationships, to meet people essentially and see. So I met this Ukrainian group. They also went there. And during his presentation, which is excellent, I'm going to hopefully make a video about it, is these 3 videos from the front lines. And you've probably seen one. It looked like a Tic Tac. It was on like,
was it black?
Came up in a short. It was a vertical. Yeah, it was black. And they zoom in. You hear
that.
Ukrainian talking. I think it came up like 6 months ago.
I remember that.
So yeah, his organization got that one. And then they got two other ones. The next one is from the same UAV. It's a UAV they use on the front lines, but they work with the military. And so if they see UAP videos, they send it to these guys. And so there's 2 other videos. There are orbs. There's orbs that go in a straight line. And then there's another video of orbs in a V. There's like 5 of them flying in a straight V. And it doesn't look like it can be missiles or anything like that. So pretty good videos. Hopefully he's sending them to me now. So I'll make a video shortly. So I do like analyzing new videos. I've made so many videos about gimbal. I'm pretty sure it's done. That's when I originally came out. You asked when I got started. I got in this online debate with Mick West. And it was just back and forth on each of the videos, and it was awesome. It was like, it felt like chess or something. Like, okay, well, he's made his move, and he would come up with really miraculous ideas. And it's not just him, right? He has a team at Metabunk, and they have smart people. Flarkey's really smart. Obviously, he has analyst background, etc. So he has this group of people that help him, and it's a good website, actually. I go there when I'm trying to find out the best debunking arguments. And so I got in the basically back and forth video explanation with him, and I'm pretty sure I won, like solved it. like his argument is correct that it could be glare from the internal mechanism, but it doesn't matter because it's in a turning engagement. There shouldn't be glare there. It should be larger. So basically, I showed.
Plus, these pilots say they saw something with their own eyes.
Yeah.
So
that's questionable though, because they didn't get within 5 nautical miles, and it's hard to see something within 5 miles at night, or especially if it's small.
No, that's fair.
So it'd have to be bright. And then I don't remember them saying specifically that he saw it visually. Although
isn't the gimbal the Nimitz
encounter?
Oh, dude, if I have this all wrong.
No, the Nimitz. Yeah, the Nimitz is the FLIR 1 video. So they did get a video of that.
Dude, I think I might have just I've been confused this whole time. I think I'm dead serious. I swear. Wow. I am. Maybe I'll cut this. I'm going to cut this so I don't look like an idiot. I'm kidding. I'm leaving it in. This is raw. This is real. Don't be afraid to admit your mistakes, people. Okay. Even I could be confused. You could be confused. Don't judge me. So the FLIR one is that, okay, got it. So the gimbal is just,
well,
what
Gimbal's
incident
from
is
Ryan
that?
Graves. Right, the Gimbal's from Ryan Graves' missions and sorties, and so he was on the mission when that was taken, but he was further away. He wasn't the guy doing the intercept, but he was with the guys doing the intercept. There was 4 of them in their 4-ship, and so they got within 7 miles. So when I calculate based on geometry, the way the geometry works, because we know how the plane is turning from inside the pod, you can tell. Because the plane is turning, the object can't be as far away as Mick West says it is. He says,
Got
"Oh,
it.
it's like a distant airliner, or it's an F-18. We don't know about it, a far distance." But the point is, they're turning, and since they're turning, right, it just makes sense. If you're turning long enough, right, you're gonna encircle the thing you're turning.
Sure.
So through geometry, I showed it was within 7 nautical miles, and I like went in a simulator. I like downloaded the simulator software and like flew it in the simulator exactly the same.
Wow.
And also found it on paper like we did as fighter pilots. Again, I did it for 18 years. And so I showed pretty conclusively that it's within 7 miles. I actually calculated 6.9 miles plus or minus 0.5, I think.
Wow.
So 6.9 miles away, which you can't make that up. And that's what Ryan Graves corroborated. I asked him, I was like, hey, I calculated this inside of 10 nautical miles. And he said, yeah. And then I think even in Lou Elizondo's book, it came out later anyway, that it was 7 miles. So if it's that close, you can mill size it on the screen, right? And it's smaller than an airplane.
Sure.
I calculated it was only like 13 feet across. So Mick West, he says it's glare, but like, what is glaring? We don't have anything that can fly there. A UAV, it can't be a balloon because it's going 100 knots, but 100 knots against the wind. But 100 knots is too fast for a balloon. And if it was a UAV, then you would see like wings and like it's shooting the exhaust. Like you would see the other part of the UAV. So it still doesn't make sense. So what I've seen Mick West when he's arguing, he's correct. Like his argument is correct, but it doesn't matter. Like he's correct. It's a glare. Great. It's a UAP. Like, why is that thing there? He doesn't explain that. So in that sense, I'm just
so even in his argument, there's an object there, right? Even in his argument, there's still an object, but it's creating a glare. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. He said, but which I agree. I'm like, yep, you're correct.
Sure.
And that's his whole argument. And you'll see that's where he stops. And he'll be like, but because it's from inside the pod, that means it's not a UAP. But that his logic makes zero sense. So I feel no need to argue with it more. I feel like I've made the videos and everything.
Sure. I mean, he's allowed his opinion on it, and have his thing and put it out. And yeah, absolutely. And you got yours, and people can decide for themselves. I'm all about that. I'm all about just people making their own conclusions, especially about this topic that is so.
For that, I know I have an excellent video. I think it's called the DD debunking video of justice.
I love it. I love
he
that.
debunked,
Yeah.
and then I debunked him, and then he
DD
debunked
yeah.
me, and I debunked him. So I think it's the DD debunking video of justice.
The Russian nesting doll of
it explains
debunking.
it. You can.
I'll put a link in the description.
It's just basic geometry. There's not even any. Again, you don't have to be a genius. It's fighter pilot techniques. They're very simple. They work.
Sure. I mean, you're a fighter pilot. Like, absolutely. Like, it's your expertise in that field is something I would listen to about that for sure. I mean, regardless, even if you're saying XYZ, it doesn't mean aliens, right? Like, does that make sense? Like, you're just saying, oh, I think it's this. None of that has to do with aliens, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's a whole different. And it doesn't. I think Mick's argument doesn't take into context. I think some of the stuff, and I get it. He's just looking at the video, but I think you have to consider all the context around the video as well, the stories that come with it and other data, and kind of piece it all together, rather than just making the assumption off of that. But regardless, it's those 2 Ukrainian videos you talked about that well, there's 3, but one of them had been released. Are those other 2 have never been released before?
I think they have been released, but I haven't seen them, and I'm trying to track down good videos of them to analyze.
Got it. Okay, right on. Yeah, because I only remember the one, but who knows? Stuff's coming out all the
Yeah, no,
time.
he
It's hard
briefed
to
it,
keep
and
up.
they looked at it in their organization, etc., but just hasn't been shared. So I want to check it out.
Shared out. Yeah, of course, man. No, everyone will be excited to see new UFO videos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all about that. Well, what other stuff are you kind of looking into? Has that been your main goal recently?
Yeah, you mentioned Ross Coulthard earlier. I'm actually
Yeah.
going on a ancient histories to the pyramids tour. Actually, I'm just a regular paying person going on the tour, but they advertise it. JP Hague is setting it up. Basically, it's a pyramid tour. So now I'm reading Christopher Dunn's book on the power plant, kind of
Oh yeah,
of the pyramids, that whole
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ancient histories type information. So gearing up for that, trying to direct my investigation more towards that to see
What's going on. Yeah, absolutely. I want to expand vetted too past just the UAP topic and get into other mysteries that surround our life, and that is one of them. Ancient history. I mean, it's a hot thing to think about, but for good reason, because it's fascinating to think about. Was our history written for us wrong, right? And what needs to be rewritten, or at least looked into more. And the idea that maybe these pyramids, I mean, I think that's what you're getting at, right? Maybe the idea that these pyramids are some sort of power structure, right? Is that the main idea
that's
behind
his
that?
argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, Magnus Holm, he's the technical director at Heston. He told me I need to read his book. He didn't know I was even going to the pyramids or whatever on this tour. So I was like, okay, I guess I need to read his book. Yeah, that's the argument. The argument is that they weren't tombs necessarily, the pyramids. They had some other purpose, and one idea is that his idea is that it's a power generator.
For what though? What power generator for what?
For the whole city, I guess. It would be like a giant nuclear generator, but it runs off of it's a maser. It's a microwave laser microwave inducer that creates energy from hydrogen.
Okay.
So it's like in the lower chamber, in the Queen's chamber would be some chemical reaction with some local chemicals that they had, and it would create hydrogen. And then they'd somehow be able to match the wavelength of hydrogen. So they're waveguides. Remember the terahertz waveguides and all that? This is supposedly like hydrogen-sized waveguides. Those are those crazy lines you see in the pyramid is basically a waveguide for hydrogen. And so that's his argument, is that is able to create electrons, create electricity through some sort of rock vibration.
But how are they getting it out? I mean, we have power lines and we have outlets and we have plugs, right? Like,
yeah.
So there's like a big wire coming out of the pyramids.
I mean, that's my point is, wouldn't we know if the Egyptian empire ran on electricity?
Yeah, from the pyramids. Yeah,
seems like we would know. Like they had these magic devices that ran on visible energy.
No, which is interesting. Free energy and all that.
But I guess it would. The energy would come at the end of one of those tubes. I don't know what they would do with it. I haven't got that far in the book.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I need to read faster.
Yeah. No, I think it's sick that you're gonna go. I think that's cool, man. You're gonna go check it out. I would. God,
Yeah, I'd love to hear from my community members. I get a lot of ideas and from patrons and YouTube members. So curious to hear what they think I should look at. I'll be asking them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. No, that's very cool, man. Wow. Okay. Look at you going to the pyramids. I'm jealous.
We'll see if anybody cares. I doubt it. I'll be there, like under the pyramid. Here I am. I found the secret to the pyramid.
Yeah, I found the secret, guys. Everyone's like, I don't care, Chris.
They were aliens.
Yeah.
Well, I am interested now. There's so many, as you look into the phenomena, look at Diana Pasoka, her whole argument, look at Jacques Vallée.
Yeah.
All the bigwigs in the U.S. They basically say that it has something to do with even ancient religions necessarily.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
I'm
No, I
curious
mean,
what relation there is.
absolutely. I look forward to hearing what you find on all this, to be honest with you. Absolutely, man. No, that's sick, dude.
Yeah, hopefully it's
What
worth it.
what was there anything else here that we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up before we bounce out on this? I don't want to miss anything here.
I think we covered
Covered a lot here.
I guess I'll finally just mention Hestalin, Project Hestalin with Carl Crusher. There's a effort. It's called MUPAS. It's not the best name, but it's a multimodal UAP sensing system.
Okay.
So it's like these sensors that Jim Segala created. And so he has these sensors that they want to put around Hestalin, and they monitor, like, if someone has a weird experience or event, then they can go check the system and see, like, yeah, 3 a.m. last night I got abducted or something, but they can go and look and actually see if there's any real data detected through all different types of sensors, like accelerometers. There's a GPS, so it can detect. There's a magnetometer, so it can detect magnetics, and there's a muon detector, all different types of frequencies. So I thought that was interesting. And concurrently, the Ukrainian team, they had a similar setup going where they had, in these little food containers, they put these little sensors.
Oh wow.
And they linked them around, and now they have a mesh net essentially. They had to end the program once the war started because of, I don't know, landmines, et cetera. But interesting that you're having all these sensors going out, thousands of sensors out there. Everything's getting cheaper. Technology is getting vastly better. Sky 360, this is just one program that I'll mention, to check out, is building these sensor systems. And using AI now, they can filter out a lot of the skies. Project Hestalin, they're already doing that. I made this last video. Again, people didn't really watch it. Tons of technical data, but on how they're weeding out the backgrounds to actually using AI. So a lot of this stuff is happening. A lot of information. I know most of my audience is U.S. focused, and there's always something going on, some drama.
Yeah.
But there are also a lot of projects out there, like these small sensors in Ukraine, of all places. Like in the war, they're out there dedicated.
Wow.
And so I think we're going to find out in the next couple of years. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, no, that's correct. You're saying we're going to find out in the next 2 years. That's a good place to end. We're going to find out in the next 2 years that we're not alone. Is what you're saying. Yeah,
I think it'll be proven. I think we're going to find out, the answer to all our physics conundrums. And I think we'll find out much more than we currently know about the phenomena.
Love that. Hey, that's optimistic, and that's a great way to think, in my opinion, and I'm all about it, man. Well, Chris, please let people know how they can stay, connected with you and follow you, kind of shout out your stuff. Of course, I'll put everything down in the description, but just for anybody watching who hasn't heard of you, I don't know how that's possible, but there might be a few.
I'm pretty sure it's possible. YouTube channel is fine. Chris Lehto, like my name there. And I put more on my Patreon, like I said, who are interested in these other trips, etc., behind the scenes information. Because without the support, we can't.
Yeah,
it doesn't make it worth it.
I agree.
But it certainly does. And I'm going to be there looking, whether it pays off or not. I'm going to be there bothering Ross Coulthart.
Oh, he's going to be at this.
He's on the tour. Yeah.
He's on the tour.
It's like a 9-day trip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
dude,
really
that's
long.
sick. Yeah, that's sick, man. You're gonna, you're gonna be like,
there's no way it'll pay for itself, but totally be worth it. I'll be there with Coulthart.
Yeah,
totally
that's
worth
sick,
it.
dude. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if he'll be filming.
UAP enthusiasts, like I said, UAP nerds will be there, and we'll all be just staring at the sky. It was cool in Hestalin as well. You go outside and everybody's just looking up with cameras.
Wow, that is cool.
Hopefully, we see something, learn something.
Yeah, man. No, it's good to be around like-minded people, right? And to have the discussions and whatever, right? Yeah, no, that's great, man. Well, look, dude, this has been honestly amazing. I've really, really enjoyed speaking with you, Chris, and I learned a lot today, to be honest with you. One, I learned that I didn't know anything about the gimbal, apparently. I had that all screwed up in my head.
Well, they haven't released anything. If you look, like Arrow government organizations, and I think that's maybe why I don't talk to the U.S. people. I don't get them on my shows. I've said before that it's not going to come from government. I think we're going to have to, it'll be from civilian organizations, from us finding it on our own. Just after 80 years, if the government hasn't released it, you know, I think we need to just find it on our own. That's my point. I don't think they like that necessarily.
I can't say that I disagree, man. Citizen disclosure, the citizen movement. I'm with you 100%. I support all of those sort of endeavors because I hate politics and the government I don't trust. And I'm with you 100%, man. So like, I think you have a lot of people that actually believe the same thing. So that's good to hear. Well, like I said, man, we'll put all the links to all of your stuff in the description, and I've super enjoyed this conversation, and just thank you for being honest, vulnerable, and just explaining a lot of this stuff. It was really, really cool. And I look forward to another conversation with you, man.
Oh, really? Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and congrats to your excellent channel.
Thank you so
when
much.
I was in Project Heston, it was in the opening slide, like, you know, who's going to find out? Is it going to be vetted? And so they mentioned your channel. I know.
Oh, really?
You do it, yeah, every day. So
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Bam! Shout out to, what is it, Hestala?
Hestalin.
Hestalin.
Yes.
Shout out. That's awesome, man. Wow. You never know
huge
how far
supporters in Norway. Yeah, there's a dedicated community in Norway. When they originally came out, Project Hestalin, they were speaking. There was huge blowback. You know, they really felt ostracized as UFO experiencers. And so now that it's come back around after 40 years of science, that, you know, they have all these videos and scientific data, et cetera, they feel very vindicated. So there's a dedicated group of UAP enthusiasts in Norway.
that, dude. That is just so cool, man. Well, awesome. That's a great way to end, man. So thank you again, Chris. This was great, man.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Patrick.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.